What's up and welcome back to another episode of the Straight Shooter Recruiter, or if you're watching on my YouTube channel, hey, I don't have an intro there, so thanks for hanging out with me. If you don't know me, my name's Emily Durham. I'm a senior recruiter by day, podcast host by night, and my goal is to help you thrive in your 9 to 5 and beyond. Emphasis on the beyond. Today is one of those funky little episodes where we're going to be talking about dating and careers, which ultimately is everything in my life, all of it, all together. Okay, if you're watching me on YouTube, you'll see me looking at my phone. It's because I don't want to misspeak about what I'm about to go through. I just want to be clear that I'm not going to go through the history of attachment styles. That's much more psychology focused. That's just not my thing. But like I said, attachment style theory is basically the idea that how we were raised, it all comes back to how we were raised impacts how we behave today in our relationships. And it's really interesting when you take like quizzes online to determine what your attachment style is, just how freaky accurate that can be. And I think back to when I was dating, especially in like high school or early in university, how toxic I was. And I look at my attachment style and was like, oh my gosh, I was definitely anxious attachment or avoidance attachment at times. And it just explains so much of my behavior. And now I look at myself and realize that I've done a lot of work to like rectify those issues. Anyways, total sidebar. There are 4 main kinds of attachment styles in attachment theory. Number 1, and the ideal one, is secure attachment. So this is where you're like self-assured, you're direct, you're responsive, you're not constantly freaking out about if that person texts you, you're not scared to have difficult conversations. So secure attachment style is kind of like our ideal state. And there's the anxious attachment style. So that's like this emotional hunger. Like you're constantly looking for more emotional validation. You're really hot and cold. So you want like non-stop attention, and the second they don't text you, you're freaking out. You romanticize absolutely everything. You're like always in these very like up and down dramatic relationships. It's never kind of like steady and calm. And when you're in a relationship, everything is either so perfect or it's absolutely horrible. The world is falling apart. The next is avoidant, and this is for sure where I fall in when I'm like feeling a little toxic, if you will. Avoidant attachment style is, instead of attaching to someone in a healthy way, you attach like via isolation. So you kind of pull back. Have you ever dated someone who like basically doesn't want to spend time with you? The second things get hard, they don't want to talk about it. They just retreat. They're hiding. They're super self-isolated. That's what avoidant is. They're literally avoiding getting attached to you. And then the next is fearful avoidant, which is kind of the same thing. I'm going to ignore it, but basically like fearful avoidant is when you're constantly looking for like conflict, you're a little bit dramatic, you're a little bit unpredictable. It's kind of like the in-between between anxious and avoidant. So for the purpose of this video, I know that there's 4 attachment styles. We're going to focus on the main 3, which is secure, which is avoidant, which is anxious. I'm going to start off by describing what a secure person would do at work. And I want to be clear, I am not always a secure person at work. A secure person at work wouldn't freak out when their manager reaches out and says, hey, can we talk? A secure person at work wouldn't be hyperventilating in the bathroom because they sent an email 5 minutes late. A secure person at work wouldn't be avoiding speaking to their manager because they're scared they're constantly going to get fired. Basically, a secure person is a person who knows a job is a job, that they're doing just fine, and even if they're not, they're going to be okay. An anxious person is someone who is viscerally vomiting every time their manager asks to meet, or every time they get an email, they're convinced it's because they're getting fired. An anxious person is a person who really needs a lot of reassurance. They need a little hand-holding, a little TLC. And an avoidant person, oh mama, they don't want to talk. An avoidant person's not responding to that email because it stresses them out. Now, my theory is how you behave in relationships is how you behave at work in some ways. And that also means your toxic traits are probably spilling over into work. So if you have an anxious attachment style with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, with your partner, you're probably being a little bit needy and anxious in the workplace. Our goal should always be to getting to that secure attachment style. I want to be totally honest. When it comes to relationships, I'm pretty secure. When it comes to work, absolutely not. I actually made a mistake a couple of weeks ago, almost a month ago at work. That was like, to be honest, pretty sizable, and it messed me up pretty badly. I feel, especially because I'm a content creator on the subject of recruiting, that I have to be perfect, that every single thing I put out there has to be like top notch. I think when I make mistakes, it's kind of like heightened, or it's like highlighted a little bit more because I'm in the public eye talking about this. So if I'm not a perfect recruiter, suddenly I lose credibility across the board and I'm scrutinized a bit more. I would say I'm secure like 80% of the time. But what I'm trying to do now that I have an anxious attachment style and literally need to be told that I'm doing a good job like 6 times a day in order not to break down in tears, is I'm reminding myself that I'm good at my job. I'm reminding myself that nobody is perfect at their job. Oh my God, me too. I have also been avoidant. I think for me, when I've been avoidant, it's because dealing with something hurts more than not dealing with it. And it's easier to just walk away and not acknowledge it. I want to tell you the problem is still going to be there when you come back, and eventually you have to come back. And you're doing the people around you a disservice by not being able to have difficult conversations with them. So if you are avoidant, do your best to deal with things on the spot, avoid procrastinating, and reward yourself every time you're able to move closer to that. I hope this is helpful. It might not be. This was like a little bit of a tangent, but in a nutshell, figure out what your attachment style is in relationships and then take a look at your behaviors at work. I guarantee there's a correlation, and the closer you can get to that secure attachment style through small practices